Yeah, talking about.
Oh, boy.
Told me you were his, yeah, he does. He told me you were his daughter, so I said, well, I sit next to her. He says, yeah. I told him he needs to come to the meetings. He says, no, I'd say something to embarrass my daughter. I said, okay.
He has plenty of opinions.
Yeah. Most of them I agreed with. Yeah, I forgot where we were standing, one of the aisles there at Sullivan, and we started talking. I probably went 10, 15 minutes. But I was no hurry. I could have made, I got to go, but I didn't.
Okay.
Good evening. Michelle, could you please give the invocation?
Lord, we thank you for your truth, the living word. In James 1:5, it says, if any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask of God, who gives to all liberally and without reproach, and it will be given to him. Lord, I pray this tonight that you would give wisdom for any decisions being made tonight and in the future concerning the city of Freeport, that you would give ears to hear and a heart to receive what you would want for this city. I pray Isaiah 30:21, that when you turn to the right or turn to the left, you will hear his voice behind you to guide you, saying, this is the right path, follow it. Lord, I thank you for each one here tonight and ask that you bless them beyond measure. Lead them and let them feel the peace in your presence. If anyone doesn't know you as their Lord and Savior, I pray their heart is changed tonight and they come to know you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Michelle. Now we'll officially call this meeting to order. Madam Clerk, would you please take the roll?
Mayor Miller.
Here.
Alderperson Clem will be marked absent. Monroe.
Here.
Simmons.
Here.
Parker.
Here.
Stacy.
Here.
Shadle.
Here.
Sanders.
Here.
And Sellers.
Here.
And could I please get a motion for Alderman Clem to participate remotely?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion made by Alderman Shadle, seconded by Alderman Parker. Madam Clerk, would you please take the roll?
Monroe.
Aye.
Simmons.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Stacy.
Aye.
Shadle.
Aye.
Sanders.
Aye.
And Sellers.
Aye.
Alderperson Clem will be marked present at 6:02. Alderperson Clem, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you. And if you could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Alderman Stacy.
Imagine it. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item number 1 is the approval of the agenda. However, there is no executive session, and if it would please the council, we would like to move the airport report to after the appointments and before the ordinances.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion made by Alderman Parker, seconded by Alderman Monroe. Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll?
Stacy.
Aye.
Shadle.
Aye.
Sanders. Sellers.
Aye.
Clem.
Aye.
Monroe.
Aye.
Simmons.
Aye.
And Parker.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Item number 2 is approval of the minutes from the regular meeting on August 5th, 2024. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
A motion made by Alderman Shadle, seconded by Alderman Sellers. Could you please take the roll?
Stacy.
I'm sorry, I just missed everything.
We're approving the minutes.
Aye.
Shadle.
Aye.
Sanders. Sellers.
Aye.
Clem.
Aye.
Monroe.
Aye.
And Simmons.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you. Item number 3 is public comments. We have one signed in for Steve Carroll on agenda number 22.
I am Steve Carroll, as previously stated. This is about the fence that we hope goes up in front of Union School. It is absolutely imperative that the abandoned Union School property at 1205 South Chicago be fenced in. The blighted area of Frank and Chicago, where Union School is located, has been an incubator for crime. There have been people shot at and shot and killed in that location. The city-owned Union School has, until recently, contributed to the neighborhood blight. Recently, Midwest Contractors was hired to clear away the massive amount of undergrowth and small trees, and I must say, they did their usual solid job. Putting up a fence will help keep people out of the building, since I'm sure the inside is very, very poor, if not dangerous. Recently, I obtained a list of city-owned properties which numbers around 300. If I had to guess, this might make the city the largest property owner in Freeport. It's clear that maintaining some of these properties is problematic, particularly in the blighted areas, but an attempt has to be made. Crime hides in areas like the Union School building, and right now, some city-owned properties are part of the problem. The city needs to have a plan on how to deal with its properties, but to have a plan, you gotta have a clue. You guys need to step up on this, and I wish you would. Mr. Boyer, on the south side of Union School, there is a utility trailer and probably half a dozen mattresses and some tires. The mattresses, I'm sure, right now weigh about 800 pounds apiece. So, before you go on vacation, why don't you and Mr. Stekel get a city pickup truck and load those things on and get them out of here? It's that simple. Thank you.
That concludes public comment. So we'll move on to consent agenda. The consent agenda is considered to be routine in nature and acts as one motion unless a member of the council would like to have something removed for further discussion. Seeing none, we have approving and to receive and place on file the minutes from boards and commissions of the police pension, fire pension boards from May 1st, zoning board of appeals, May 2nd, planning commission, May 9th, foreign fire insurance board, June 13th, and the liquor commission from June 20th and July 11th, all 2024. Also, our reports for July 2024 from the Freeport Housing Authority, building permits, fire department, police department, and liquor commission semi-annual report to the city manager from January to June 2024. Also is the finance bills payable in total of $3,416,529.15 and approving payroll from pay period ending August 10th, 2024 in the total of $623,436.55. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion made by Alderman Shadle, seconded by Alderman Sellers. Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll?
Stacy,
Aye.
Shadle,
Aye.
Sanders, Sellers,
Aye.
Clem,
Aye.
Monroe,
No.
and Simmons, and Parker.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-1.
And item number 5 are appointments. Could you please read these?
Appointments to the Arts and Culture Commission. 2-year terms expiring August 31st, 2026 to Terry Wernz, Jessica Modica, Luann Steinbaugh Hayes, and 3-year terms expiring August 31st, 2027 to Liz Carter, Riley Austin, and Ashley Huffines.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion made by Alderman Parker, seconded by Alderman Sellers. Discussion? Madam Clerk, could you, Alderman Monroe?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Are there any concerns with members that are elected to office sitting on these? Is there any? There's none? Okay.
It just, well, what elected office do they hold?
Luann Hayes is a county board member, is one.
I can't see where the county would have
Just was
a
asking.
conflict.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think like financially or anything like that, because they don't contribute funds or we don't to the process or anything like that, and nor do we. I can't think of any
Okay.
conflict off the top of my head, James, where because they don't, it's really our commission, so I don't think the county participates in that, so.
Okay. Fair enough. Thank you.
Alderman Sanders?
Yes, who is doing the appointments?
That would be me.
That'd be you?
And then they're approved by the council.
Okay, have we done a complete vetting, observation of all of these candidates for these positions? Have we done that as city hall administrators or council? Have we went through the process to do?
Yes, if I don't know them personally, whoever has recommended them does, and their application, their resume is before the council, so you can read those over.
Okay, thank you.
Alderman Stacy?
Are all these carried over? Like, have they already been in this position?
This is a brand-new commission, so we're just standing it up for the first time.
And how are the people chosen? What determines?
I put out lots of emails and inquiries to different people, asking different ones, you know, do you have anyone that might be interested in serving on this? And through several months' worth of emails and just asking people, would you be interested, sending them the ordinances. I've been able to acquire 6 of these. There are 9 spots. So I still have a few more, but it's enough to be able to stand up the committee and get it moving.
Follow up. Are councilmen able to be on that board?
Look at the ordinance to see how it was written. I don't, usually I wouldn't think you would be, because ultimately they're going to make recommendations to you on certain projects, I believe. So ultimately at that point, then you guys would vote on it, on those items.
But wouldn't that mean I would abstain?
I think that inherently then you wouldn't be, you'd kind of be not doing your role as the alderperson, right, to vote on, to provide that approval? If that kind of makes sense?
Well,
No.
So like so if you were to serve on this board, then every time a arts and commission item came before, then you would just choose to abstain and not kind of cast a vote as an alderperson?
well, for example, when Alderman Shado, when something comes across the table from Helms, he abstained because he works for Helms.
Right.
But he's still on the council.
Correct, and that's a private matter here. I'd have to look into that, Alderman Stacy. I guess I've never seen a situation where, like, the zoning board of appeals, right, that an elected alderperson also serve on the ZBA, right, or the
Is
planning
there
commission.
is there any board that we could serve on?
These usually they're ad hoc committees and stuff like that. I'd have to look at the rules, though, off the top of my head. I know there's a general broad rule that says that, you know, officers of the city shouldn't hold multiple positions, like multiple offices at the same time. So I'd have to look at whether or not an alderperson could serve on this commission. I don't know that answer off the top of my head. So,
Alderman Sanders?
Yeah, okay, you said that you chose to make that observation to select these individuals for, as a candidate for these positions, am I right?
Yes.
And are these paid positions?
No.
Okay, they're voluntary positions?
Yes, they volunteer, like the terms say, some of them are 2-year terms, some are 3-year terms. So it is a labor of love.
Oh, is that what this is all about? Okay. I have no objections.
All right, then if there's no other discussion, Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Stacy,
Aye.
Shadle,
Aye.
Sanders,
Aye.
Sellers,
Aye.
Clem,
Aye.
Monroe,
Aye.
Simmons,
Aye.
and Parker.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you. Next, we will move on to the airport report.
Actually, as of right now, I don't really have anything for a report. I know Alderman Stacy wanted me back again, finally here. But the big thing is the air show. The air show is about a month away now, so September 21st. That's our big one. We've already sold quite a few tickets. I do have hard tickets out at the airport. They are $5 off. And we've got a good lineup this year. Mark's doing a good job at getting the individuals in. That's our main thing. One thing that happened basically at the airport last week, it was Jet Week. As far as why we do some of the things that we do through the year and stuff, and why we do our planning and stuff as far as trying to make improvements to the airport, this was a classic case. The office that we have right now is very, very small. I had 4 jets in there all at once. I had 32 people in there.
Wow.
That's not enough room in that office. So anyway, that is one thing that we need to, you know, try to work on the terminal, to try to get that so that the people can wait and it's comfortable for them also. Because I only have 1 bathroom. And so some of the guys were at least going to the porta potty, so at least it gave them an option. But that does happen frequently as far as, not 4 all at once, but it does that there's that many people. Because when a jet comes in, you're looking at 7 to 9 people usually. And so even that in itself in the office is quite a few people. So anyway, I just thought I'd throw that one out there.
Alderman Sanders.
Yes,
Yes, what's your first name again?
Angie.
Angie? Yeah, is there, okay, these hangars that obtain these vehicles, and they do maintenances on these vehicles, am I correct?
The airplanes that came in, they were just.
Or any vehicle, any airplane, I call it vehicle, but anyway. Do they do maintenance on these vehicles at those hangars? Because what I'm leaning toward is their liability on the city when hangars are operating out of these hangars with their own vehicles, and then they you know, taking off from our airport. Is there a responsibility on our part to make sure that these vehicles are up to date, mandated, I mean, not mandated, but up to date with maintenances work in form of will the city ever be in a position being compromised by some kind of maintenance that has a faulty plane comes up with a problem? Do we hold any responsibilities to that?
That's up to the individual. They are the ones that are responsible. They are upheld by the FAA regulations.
Okay.
They're the ones that need to uphold that. Of course, there's things that happen, you know, I mean, we've had incidences, we've actually had some accidents out there. But no, the city is not liable for those because it is the pilot in command that is responsible for those things.
So we have all of the documents and policies and all of these kinds of things in play all the time that we have.
It's a standard.
It's a standard, okay. And we can visit those standards to
Yeah, and it's
see
just, like
for
I said,
ourselves.
it's FAA.gov, everything's there. Or you
Okay.
can end up talking to an FAA representative.
Okay, thank you. Yep.
So if anybody else has any questions, like I said, you'd ask me back, so
I'm glad you're feeling better and that you're here.
I'm here.
Thank you.
Darren?
Angie, do we have any plans with CMT to look after grants for the
They do non.
for the terminal portion?
We've tried it several times, and the grants that are up are not, you cannot do that with the terminal. It's just, it's not. You can do parts of it. So there is one grant that we're looking at right now that we're trying to get, so that we can end up, it will pay for parts of it, which will help in the long run. So that's the problem. They don't have a grant that you can specifically say it's for a terminal.
Okay,
It's just not out there.
thank you.
Yep.
Alderman Monroe?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I got a question. Last week on Friday the 16th, that was your birthday, correct? Oh, I'm sorry. Out of line, but happy birthday.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on to item number 6, which is the second reading of ordinance 2024-38. Madam Clerk, could you please read this?
Ordinance amending Chapter 1262 off-street parking and loading.
Thank you, Director Duckman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is the second reading of an ordinance that will amend our off-street parking and loading. And essentially what this is proposing is that any person building a driveway in the city of Freeport is going to be required to have a permit with a 1% project fee of the total cost. This is a change because prior to this proposed ordinance, if the driveway was less than $10,000, it did not require a permit. What kind of started this initiative is that we've been working with the Public Works Department, and oftentimes when people have been building driveways without requirement of a permit, there's been some issues with where the driveway ties into the right-of-way, but also in general there have been some issues with quality of the driveway, people dumping and leaving stone in their neighbors' yards. And what the intent of this ordinance, this amendment is doing is to allow the city more jurisdiction to monitor the construction standards of driveways in our city. And staff is recommending approval of this ordinance.
Any questions? Alderman Sanders?
Oh, I didn't know we was in discussion at this point. The city is going to oversee any of these types of driveway projects and things of this nature to make sure the contractors are in compliance. Am I correct?
Yes. Yes.
And so, do the city make any recommendation to owners about how they should go about getting the proper contractor to do the proper work? Are we involved in any of that aspect?
No, we don't recommend an actual contractor to do the work, but we do have licensed contractors, which essentially is proof of insurance. That's the main item there. And with plumbing contractors, there's a state license we check for. But when it comes to general contractors, with a driveway, we would require that their license would essentially require proof of insurance. And
our department.
Sorry, Community Economic Development.
Yeah.
We do the building permits, and they have to be a licensed contractor.
So.
But you cannot come to the city. That would be a conflict of interest if we said, hey, you should hire this person. We would never do that.
Okay.
Bless you.
Okay.
Alderman Moreau?
No.
Okay, if there's no further discussion, Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Stacy?
Aye.
Shadle?
Aye.
Sanders?
Aye.
Sellers?
Aye.
Clem?
Aye.
Monroe?
Aye.
Simmons?
No.
And Parker.
Aye.
The ordinance passes 7-1.
Item number 7 is the second reading of ordinance 2024-39. Sorry, 39. Should put my glasses on. Could you please?
Ordinance approving hangar lease K9 with Tango 34 LLC.
Manager Boyer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Again, second reading, hangar K9. We have Tango 34 LLC is interested in leasing hangar K9. The agreement will generate approximately $165 a month for the city, and city staff recommends approval of the hangar lease.
Any additional? Alderman Sanders.
Yeah, is that those leasing prices are in accordance to average charges for these hangars? Are we in compliance with all the other hangars when it comes to charging for leases? Because that sounds like a very low ball, unless it's about the square footage or whatever the case is, or the building, or whatever is the reason why we're having such a low price on that rental property. Is there any discrepancies with that property?
The lease rates are established by council. The last time they were voted on was in 2021.
So this is old. This is old.
These are the approved lease amounts.
Yeah.
However, staff is working on reviewing those and updating them for a time here in the future.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
When you say staff, are they qualified people to make these decisions, to bring to the council so we can make a determination whether or not we should move forward with this type of thing that your staff might come up with? Do we get to see this this proposal that is being proposed for the changes of this is it an ordinance? Is it a property ordinance? To see whether or not this ordinance needs to be amended, upgraded, or whatever the case is, because it sounds like it's so far out of date that they're throwing pennies at us right now. And I think that's a disservice to the people of the city of Freeport, and not only that, to the council itself. And I don't know how your staff is computing the average amongst all the hangars and bringing it in compliance with all the other hangars, because it sounds like it's an off-balance situation here, you know, and I'm not in agreement with it because we have not had a chance to talk about why that is such a thing that is going on right now. 20 years ago, that's, you know,
No, it was only a couple of years ago.
And
it was approved by council, so it has to change by council, and that's what he said is what they're evaluating, so they can bring it so that we can decide, oh, is this really what we want? That's a further discussion. So
okay.
Tonight, it's approving this particular lease.
I got you. Okay, thank you.
Alderman Stacy.
Yes, is this the actual contract?
Yes, it is.
And his name is Rob?
No, it's an LLC. Tango 34.
There's an emergency notification.
Okay, that's the emergency notification name.
Oh, okay. Is this what our hangar lease are gonna look like?
Staff is currently working on updating the lease. At the advice of the airport manager, she has asked us to stay with the old lease until the end of the year and then update all of them at the same time once we have that new lease format put together. So for the time being, this is the lease that we're working with the idea that we'll be updating that lease in January.
Okay, with that understanding, how long is this lease for?
It's a month-to-month lease, like most of them are out there, except for the commercial ones. So this is a month-to-month lease.
Okay.
Okay, even though it's a month-to-month lease, if they wanted it for 60 months, as long as they want it, it's theirs?
That's correct.
So, on the new lease, yes, attorney.
I'll add a caveat to that as long as they're not in breach of the lease, then they can renew it. So if they weren't paying rent all of a sudden and they said, oh, well, I still want it for another month, the city could step in and say, well, we don't want to renew you for another month because you haven't paid rent. So as long as they're not in breach of the lease, then the city could decide to keep renewing it.
So would the city ever consider going like with a 1 year, a 3 year, a 5 year?
The airport manager has recommended that month to month works best for most of the people at the airport. So I essentially will go with the recommendation from the airport manager since she handles the airport business day to day. I accept her recommendation.
But you don't know why she would say month to month.
Darren?
Yeah, I talked to Angie directly about this because I kind of have the same sentiment, I think, as you, that why weren't there longer leases? And she said this is kind of with the kind of aircrafts that we have at Albertus, this is very typical month to month because people buy and sell planes regularly at that range. And that's one of the reasons that these contracts kind of come to you while they're already occupying the area, because when people want to rent the space, they want it now. And then, so by the time it gets to a meeting here, it might be 15 to 30 days before it even gets here. So I had the same question as you, but she said that is typical for airports our sizes to have month to month.
Okay.
All right, if there's no further discussion, would you please take the roll?
Stacy,
Aye.
Shadle,
Aye.
Sanders,
Aye.
Sellers,
Aye.
Clem,
Aye.
Monroe,
Aye.
Simmons,
Aye.
and Parker.
Aye.
The ordinance passes 8-0.
And item number 8 is the second reading of ordinance 2024-40. Could you please read this?
Ordinance authorizing the sale, recycling, donation, and disposal of certain personal property owned by the city. Up for you is a police department van.
Chief Schenberger.
Thank you. The Freeport Police Department utilized F-26, which was a tan 2000 Chevrolet van, for missions conducted by the emergency response team from 2000 to 2023. The police department now has a new van for ERT missions. F-26 is currently not being used and has been parked at the city yards. The staff has been approached by a member of the multi-jurisdictional special response team that serves Stevenson County, Carroll County, and Joe Davis County. The SRT is currently in need of a replacement van to utilize for missions. This van will also be utilized by the Carroll County Emergency Management Agency as a vehicle to tow the command trailer when needed. F-26 is in need of bodywork and mechanical repairs. Representatives from the SRT plan on having these repairs conducted at the Whiteside Area Career Center in Sterling. And there is no funding for this that's necessary, and the staff is requesting to donate F-26 to the Carroll County Sheriff's Department.
Thank you. Questions? Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Stacy,
Aye.
Shadle,
Aye.
Sanders,
Aye.
Sellers,
Aye.
Clem,
Aye.
Monroe,
Aye.
Simmons,
Aye.
and Parker.
Aye.
The ordinance passes 8-0.
Item number 9 is the second reading of ordinance 2024-42. Could you please read this?
Ordinance approving variance application at 3020 West Greenfield Drive submitted by Susan Keister to examine the variance application to seek relief from 1270.03E1 to allow a fence to exceed 6 feet in height in any side or rear yard.
Thank you. Director Duckman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So, going over this again, this is a second reading, but to recap what the situation here is that on March 13th, the City of Freeport received a permit application to install a fence at 3020 West Greenfield Drive. And at that time, which is in our ordinance, the contractor would have known and did know that the allowable fence height would be 6 feet. And the inspection that was performed by our inspector when they went out to do their final inspection noticed that the height of the fence was 8 feet in one area. And when the property owner was notified of the situation, they decided to move forward with the variation. And on July 11th, the Zoning Board of Appeals had a hearing for this variation, and they recommended approval to allow a fence height of 8 feet by a vote of 5-0 with no abstentions. And on July 11th, the Planning Commission also recommended approval by a vote of 6 yeas, 1 nay, and 0 abstentions. So in line with that, staff is recommending approval of this variation. And
Any further discussion? Madam Clerk, please take the roll. Oh, Alderman Stacy?
You know, I don't like the idea that they're, is this the one that's 6 and 8? I don't like the idea that they're putting it on the contractor. The contractor gave them what they wanted. Just tell the truth. Normally, if you do it for one, you do it for the other. But I'm finding that not to be so on this council. So, if we were to accept this, and it happened again for someone else, or maybe they'll just put up a whole 8-foot fence, then what we gonna do?
well, I do want to clarify one thing. I do want to say that when a contractor comes in and says they're going to build a 6-foot fence on the permit, they should build a 6-foot fence. You know, that's, and if you're a contractor, and I wasn't there for that conversation, I'm looking at what's on the permit. And then my inspector looks out to check that, sees that it's 8 feet. So the conversation that may or may not have been had, I'm not going to testify or talk to that. But what I will say is that a contractor is responsible for doing that. And in speaking with the property owner, when they found out after the inspection, that's when they decided to move forward with the variation. So in that situation, I mean, I understand your opinion. I don't know if I can exactly share that opinion. I will say this, that if this situation happened again, the next person would have an opportunity to apply for a variation. And in my time here and in other municipalities I've worked with, some variations pass and some do not. And I do my best to provide the information that I have, you know, to provide to you as a council what the Zoning Board of Appeals, their opinions, and also the Planning Commission's opinions. And so, you know, I'm here to answer any other questions you have. I just want you to know that anybody in the city of Freeport who wants to apply for a variation, I would give them the same opportunity.
Is this 8-foot portion blocking? What is it blocking? What is it?
I can show it again on the screen here.
Alderman Monroe, did you have that answer as well?
I had an answer. Basically, it's not blocking anything. You can't see it from the road. You can't see it from the neighbor's house. As you can see, down this lane and to the right, behind all those bushes and trees, all that evergreen is where that fence is.
Okay.
So in no way, shape, or form can anybody see it from the roadway, from anywhere else. I'm not really sure how it all happened. I mean, I've gotten kind of the stories and I've asked questions. One of the new companies in town recently did the fence, and I guess the person that put the fence in wasn't aware of the 8-foot limitation or the 6-foot limitation on the city ordinances. So that's something that's been learned by them as well, that they could advise future customers that, no, we can't do that because you have to have that approved by the city before it happens.
Okay.
Alderman Shadle?
I saw it from the street when I drove by. Just throw that out there. When they came in and got their permit, the homeowner, they were given a 2-page list of what I can and cannot do. For instance, frequently asked questions. What do I need to do? Is the city responsible for my fence? Can I put a fence in my front yard? Can I put a fence in my rear side yard? Yes. The height of your fence can't exceed 6 feet. Seems pretty clear.
Alderman Sanders?
Yeah, to add to that, have we had any official complaints in regards to this fencing deal? Have anybody objected to it at all that we may know of?
Director Duckman?
Yes, not at the Planning Commission or at the Zoning Board of Appeals. That's where we have the hearing for this. And we didn't have any, no testimony, complaints against it.
Okay.
Have any neighbors?
I've not fielded any complaints on it in my department. And the opportunity to do so, correct, somebody could have called outside of it, but when we do these variations, there's going to be a sign in the front yard, there's going to be a notice in the paper, and there's also going to be all the neighbors, adjoining neighbors would have been mailed, they were mailed a notice stating when the hearing is going to happen. So we do a pretty good job letting people know we're going to be having this hearing. And we did not receive complaints at the hearing, and I've not received any complaints on the phone about it as well.
I haven't received any in the office either. Alderman Sellers?
Yes, I would like to just add that I do understand the permit, but, you know, I don't know if she went and got the permit or the contractor did, but I think it's more on the contractor reading it and knowing it, I think that maybe in the future, some kind of way that the contractor should be fined, not necessarily the homeowner should be, because the contractor should know by reading all that what they can and can't do.
I agree with that. I agree with that statement.
Is this about someone being fined?
No, there's no fines.
Oh.
Alderman Monroe.
So it kind of comes back to, you know, he said, she said, there's a little bit of that going back and forth, and that's fine. I mean, that's always going to happen. There's always, as the police department would know, and good police officers would know, that there would be, you know, both sides of the conversation that happened, and the truth is probably somewhere in the middle. What I do know is that the contractor was not even aware of this ordinance of 6 feet. So when asked, you know, and they're a multi-million-dollar business, but I'm sure other businesses in town have a reason to try and keep a cap on them growing. So, you know, it's important to kind of, for us, to look at each one of these instances. How does it affect anybody else? If it doesn't, does it really create a problem? And in most instances, we've given, you know, the ability for somebody to continue a project that was against a certain ordinance, and we've done it with judges, we've done it with other people who live in the community. And for this section of, I believe, is it 3 panels or 4 panels of 8-foot fence? It's a very, very short run. And, you know, let's say it's 3, that's 18 feet. If it's 4, it's 24 feet. Being 6-foot panels is what my guess is. Very, very short. It really doesn't present a major issue. I mean, law enforcement can get around it. They don't have to go over the top of it. You know, anybody, if they were looking for somebody, an individual that ran or fled from a spot, I mean, there's reasons why we put these ordinances in place, and we've done it in the way that we have in the past. The slots on the fences, things like that. I find it very disingenuous that someone would just argue the letter of the ordinance here, when in many, many instances, we've given variances to many, many people that are significantly further over the line than this. But I expect nothing less than somebody who berates a plumber who might have done something against, you know, an ordinance on a weekend on an emergency call. So, you know, those types of things are important to remember. If it doesn't affect the city, it doesn't affect the neighbors, I mean, really, why are we holding back? Why has this become such an issue to vote on? You know, 24 feet or 18 feet of fence. I mean, we've got bigger issues in this city to address, one of which is coming up later on down the line. And I think it's important that we move this along, and we move forward, and we get past this and take it for what it is. Lesson learned by the contractor. The homeowner knows nobody's been harmed, and I don't see what the problem is.
If there's no further discussion, Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Stacy?
Aye.
Shadle?
No.
Sanders?
Aye.
Sellers?
Aye.
Clem?
No.
Monroe?
Aye.
Simmons?
No.
Parker?
Aye.
I have 5 in favor, 3 against. The ordinance passes.
Item number 10 is the second reading of ordinance 2024-44. Could you please read this?
Ordinance authorizing the sale and disposal of certain personal property owned by the city. Up for consideration is equipment from the IT department.
Director Setman.
Hey, Council, this is an ordinance to get rid of unrepairable, inoperable, insecure, unsupported hardware that's accumulated basically in my office over years. So we're talking old copiers, mobile devices, laptops, things like that. just looking to get rid of it.
Alderman Sanders.
What's the procedure for disposing any of that particular hardware?
So anything that's got permanent storage on it will be either wiped or have the storage removed and then shredded.
And we have a processing area that we do that in?
Well, I take it all apart in my office, and then we take the hard drives to a shredding facility.
Oh, there is one. There is a facility that, where is it located?
I believe it's in Rockford.
Okay, so that is something that they do as a business?
Yes.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know.
If there's no further discussion, Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Stacy?
Aye.
Shadle?
Aye.
Sanders?
Aye.
Sellers?
Aye.
Clem?
Aye.
Monroe?
Aye.
Simmons? And Parker.
Aye.
The ordinance passes 8-0.
Item number 11 is the first reading of ordinance 2024-45. Could you please read this?
Ordinance amending odd-even snow parking for all days from November 1 through April 1.
Thank you. Manager Boyer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Following the committee for the whole, the last committee of the whole, where this was discussed at some length, staff is requesting a change to the odd-even parking rule. This is generated from the street department, and they're highlighting the fact that snow removal is very difficult when we have vehicles parked on both sides of the street, especially in some of the older parts of town. This request is being made due to the fact that right now our process is if we have over 2 inches of snow, then we can issue a snow emergency, and then then the odd-even protocol goes into effect. And some of our folks would like to have this in effect from November through April 1st. A comment that was brought up at the committee of the whole was, can we have this in effect for a ½ inch of snow or more? And I think that's definitely doable. We'll have to make the change to the ordinance. So this particular one hasn't got that change, but we can bring that forward for council at the next council meeting for approval. So with that, I'd just like to open up the floor for any further discussion regarding the odd-even protocol.
Half inch on it. It has been updated.
No, it hasn't been.
There are portions, Mayor, that require ½ an inch, but there are also in the part that deals with odd even, if it is always, if it's any time between November and April there, then it doesn't have to, it could be dry weather. There could be no snow as long as but if you're within those winter months, you'd still have to observe odd even. I think that's what Rob is saying. No, the request has been made during committee that there's got to still, even in the winter months, there's got to be at least ½ an inch of snow before it kicks in. I think staff is agreeing to make that change.
Alderman Sanders.
Yeah, how does one determine a ½ inch throughout the city without a notification that we're getting a ½ inch of snow and people have already parked their vehicles for the day or for the night, and they become in violation if it happens to dump on them even more than a ½ an inch? How do we compensate for those type of notification if the people are already in place, they're parked in their position, assuming that it may or may not snow? How do we go about notifying people that this is going to take place, or how much accumulative snow that's going to drop on the ground that we know for sure that it's going to amount to a ½ inch, and it doesn't, or it accumulates more than a ½ inch? And people can't get out of their parking space to go find another parking space because every area is going to be with the same amount of snow. So how does one judge that? That's, I just don't know how would one judge that.
Manager Boyer.
Alderman Sanders, essentially this simplifies things quite a bit, at least for public knowledge, because in the past that we would have to receive over 2 inches of snow. We'd have to get a snow emergency notification out 24 hours in advance, and that would initiate the odd even protocol. So this would basically say, hey, it's going to be odd even protocol all winter from November to April. And if you look outside and you see snow on the, just start parking on the appropriate side of the road. Right. So this kind of simplifies things. I think it makes it more, I think it's clearer for the residents. Because before you might get an inch, you might get 3 inches, you don't know. And if you're not in the loop with the either news releases, Facebook, or whatever's going on with the city, you may not even know that there's a snow emergency declared. And also, it's kind of difficult. The whole concept of an snow emergency to me means it needs to be an emergency, but it's just the way our ordinance was written that I can't get anybody to change the side of the street that they're parking on unless I issue this. And they're only good for 72 hours. And once that 72 hours is over, then anybody can park wherever they want. And one of the problems with that is usually we have all the centers done on the streets and we've got the parking lot cleared by then, but we still haven't done our plowbacks. And that's where you really need people to keep doing the odd even protocol, because it's when you get the plowbacks done that you're opening up the lanes and creating the space for the next snow. And if you don't get those plowbacks done because people are parked all over the place because it's over 72 hours, it gets to be very complex. So I think this actually supports our street department. It helps them get their job done. And I think once everybody gets in the routine of it, it'll actually be simpler because nobody will be waiting around for a press release or some notification to hit their phone. They'll just know, hey, it's snowing outside. It looks like about a ½ an inch. I better park on the appropriate side of the street.
Okay, yeah.
Alderman Parker?
I think the intent of that is that just as any snow comes down, then it reminds people that, hey, we're in the snow thing. Because right now, sometimes we go all the way through November with no snow, and people aren't going to remember, geez, I got to move it because of snow, because that's very petty in their life. Just this here would be a reminder that, okay, got to do, like I said, ½ inch or just any snow at all would be enough to remind people to start going along with the law. That's my opinion.
Alderman Stacy?
I've heard ½ an inch, I've heard inch, and I've heard 2 inches. What does the ordinance say?
Mr. Boyer?
Right now, we have to have at least 2 inches to declare a snow emergency.
Thank you.
But the one that is before you will say ½ an inch.
Pardon me?
The one that's before you will say ½ an inch. That's the change. Darren?
Yeah, as a reminder, the street superintendent asked for this ordinance also based on safety of residents' vehicles and insurance claims that we're having because our equipment's so big in comparison to the street, trying to weave in and out throughout the cars. I think Pat shared some photos last week of most of our plows have wing plows on them now, and they're very big machines, and we're trying to save time for our people and get the streets plowed quicker. And doing that, we're getting more insurance claims because when there's 2 cars parked on either side of the road and the snow's now pushed back, it's very tight to get that equipment through. I think one street last year, we had an incident where we clipped off 2 or 3 mirrors on one block because we just can't get through. So there's multiple aspects of why this is good for the city, but it costs us money in insurance claims, damage, things like that. And we do have a lot of people parking in the streets during the winter months that could park on their driveways.
Manager Boyer, did you want to add to that?
Let me just re-hit some of the highlights. As Darren had alluded to, it's going to be safer, but there's other benefits. Basically, the constituents will know where to park based on the calendar day from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. On the following day. Cul-de-sacs will not change. No parking is allowed during snow events. All city parking lots will be odd even as well as east-west due to the signage that's installed. It's quicker for our plow crews to clean the streets and will be more effective getting the snow pushed back. And then the odd even parking should reduce crew overtime, helping budget while allowing for more efficient snow removal. It's safer for our staff and equipment with many tight streets in the city, and less interference with vehicle traffic and weaving around parked cars, and reduced insurance claims, fire and police support odd even parking due to the fact that the faster those streets get cleared, the easier it is for them to do their job.
And I kind of went off on, didn't get my motions before this discussion started, so actually I need a motion to move this forward.
Motion.
So move.
We have a motion made by Alderman Parker, seconded by Alderman Sellers. Now, any further discussion? Seeing none, then we will move this to the next city council meeting. Item number 12 is the first reading of ordinance 2024-46. Could you please read this?
Ordinance approving accessible parking space on Exchange near Galena Avenue.
Thank you. Manager Boyer.
Yep. Thank you, Madam Mayor. If we could go ahead and put the picture back up. We discussed this also at the committee of the whole. There's been several requests for an additional disabled parking spot at the corner, near the corner of Galena and Exchange. This is where the VA is located. One of the workers at the VA is disabled, and also many of the people that they help are disabled. So there's been a request to add one additional ADA parking spot, basically on Exchange on the south side of the street there near the corner of Galena. So staff requests moving this forward to second reading.
Is there a motion to move this forward?
So move.
We have a motion made by Alderman Sellers, seconded by Alderman Parker. Discussion. Seeing none, we'll move that on to the next city council meeting. We'll move on to item number 13, which is the first reading of ordinance 2024-47. Could you please read this?
Ordinance approving hangar lease L5 with Paul Oda at Albertus Airport.
Manager Boyer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Heritage Aero operates an airplane repair business at Albertus. A plane owned by Paul Oda is scheduled for repairs, which may last 3 to 6 months. Heritage Aero currently has no available space to store this aircraft while repairs are being made. Mr. Oda will lease the hangar L5 for a few months while his airplane is undergoing repairs. The agreement will generate $165 per month, and staff recommends moving forward with the hangar lease.
Is there a motion to move us forward?
So move.
Second.
We have a motion made by Alderman Sellers, seconded by Alderman Shadle. Discussion? Alderman Stacy?
Does this hangar have water and bathroom?
I don't believe so, no. Mm-mm.
And this is the company, the gentleman that came and spoke?
He's apparently doing some maintenance for this gentleman who's wanting to rent the hangar. Essentially what they're doing is they want to lease a hangar space to park the airplane in for a period of time until the repairs can be completed on this aircraft. So fairly straightforward.
And so that hangar is currently empty?
Yes.
If there's no further discussion, we'll move this to the next regularly scheduled meeting. Item number 14 is the adoption of Resolution 2024-85. Could you please read this?
Resolution approving agreement with Alta Planning and Design for Safe Streets for All grant administration.
Director Duckman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm going to back up here for a minute because the next agenda item deals with the a grant agreement. And so this agenda item is before us now is talking about the contractor that would be hired to do the grant implementation of the U.S. DOT Safe Streets for All grant. So the Safe Streets for All grant is a U.S. Department of Transportation grant that provides funding for the planning of safe streets. And, you know, with that, the city of Freeport has put up a request for proposal that was put out on March 22nd of 2024, and the proposals were due in April 22nd of 2024, and staff received one submittal. And the reason that it is now before council here in August is that the U.S. Department of Transportation had quite a few. There's more regulation when you only have one bid proposal, so they have to look at it, and it's been provided to you in the memorandum as well, itemizing how the contractors are going to be performing the work, their itemized hours that are going to be put towards the project. So the reason why it's taken 4 extra months to do that is that staff has been working with the U.S. Department of Transportation to go over the breakdown of those costs, and to before we bring it to council, we had to do quite a bit of work for the Department of Transportation to approve this this consultant. But that being said, a further breakdown of this agreement would be a total of nearly $500,000 of work in planning a Safe Streets for All program, but $287,000 of that would actually be going to the Alta Planning and Design Incorporation, and a little over $200,000 of that would actually be going to Fair Graham. And so the reason you have two contractors working here is that Alta is a national organization, and they don't even have an office in Illinois. But when I look through their proposal, and to give you an idea of the light reading it's right here. So anything you want to know about Alta and what they've done for the Department of Transportation, it's extensive. But in reading through it, right in their cover letter, what they're proposing is that they bring a large body of experience with Department of Transportation grants. And they're working with a local contractor, Fair Graham, who has more local knowledge of what's going on actually in the city of Freeport and how they can tap into that local knowledge to come up with a Safe Streets for All plan that would be approved. So a little further into it as well to give an idea of areas that are going to be focused on in this plan would be the Stevenson Street and Park Boulevard intersection, the Stevenson Street and Greenfield Drive intersection, Walnut Street to Float. So if you're on South Street, it would be Walnut Street to Float. And then also the Walnut Street and Empire Avenue intersection, all 12 of the School Street crossing lights, that's all going to be investigated in this plan. And then also West Street and Clark Street and on Douglas Avenue. So basically Douglas Avenue from west to Clark. So essentially what's going on here is what's before you now is a resolution to enter into an agreement with Alta and Fair Graham to prepare a Safe Streets for All plan, and staff's recommending approval.
Is there a motion to adopt?
So move.
Second.
We have a motion made by Alderman Seller, seconded by Alderman Shadle. Alderman Sanders.
Wayne, give us another type of visual of what a design Safe Street should look like.
It's intense. It's intensive. I mean, I can go through it here. It's going to.
No, just give us a brief summary of it.
Yeah, basically, the idea behind it is your federal government contemplates making think about the Safe Streets for All. And so they're going to be doing traffic studies. They're going to be looking at the number of accidents that happened throughout the city. And when they looked at all of that data, they're going to come up with ideas. How could we design? How could we create a better intersection, timing of lights, et cetera? It's basically coming up with a plan to make the city have safer streets. And then ultimately what would happen is from this plan, the city would be open to further funding for some of these projects.
Now that's for the whole city of the residents of the city, am I correct?
The grant is for the citizen, yes.
And for those areas that we find that might have problems for being safe in their neighborhoods or their community, and there's not enough lighting properly in these community areas, are we talking about things of that nature?
No,
Okay.
and I could pull up I'll pull up a heat map here, but one of the biggest items of concern, or what basically drove the reasoning behind this grant and what we're planning for, is the heat map's going to illustrate where you have the most accidents. Traffic accidents. And so the idea is, we know we have traffic accidents, well, but why? Could be lighting, sure. Could be needing wider turn lanes, longer turn lanes. But the idea here is that the federal government, U.S. Department of Transportation, is offering us a grant, is offering us $400,000 to give us the why and the solutions to get there. So quite a bit of work has been done. Go ahead. Sorry.
Have we not done our own studies over the course of the years? We have never had a plan to do anything of this nature.
Not to this extent. And and to be clear, if we don't have this plan or we don't take advantage of this plan, good chance we're not going to I could almost guarantee you're not going to be eligible for Department of Transportation funding to fix these streets in future.
So who would that be designated to? A private contractor, the city employees to work in this area, or anyone that can do the study? Are we in a position of hiring people to come in and do these kinds of studies?
I would say no way.
These are private firms.
This is a private firm doing
Yeah.
this, and they've been and we've looked at and I have their submittal here. They have an extensive experience in putting together the plans that would, this type of plan for this type of funding.
Okay, well, I have a problem with that, providing fundings and no job opening opportunities for the city of Freeport. I like the idea of the grant, but when the grant is targeted toward a certain agency or contractors or whatever the case may be, I don't see how. I understand the benefit that the city will receive from this, but I also like to see the implementation of citizens working in the company, or to have a say-so or have some kind of a interjection or whatever to be part of such a large amount of just one firm or one company coming in doing all the work.
Two things to that. There is a public transportation. Sorry, there's a public comment portion and public participation portion contemplated in any of these plans. There's going to be a chance for the public to discuss, their opinions on the matter. So that will be addressed by this firm. But I also will tell you, when you read through these submittals, and one of the first things you're going to look at is they provide the resumes of the people who work for these organizations, and they also provide some of their, what the organizations are charging for their professional expertise, and it's extensive. And the people who work for these organizations are going to, if they work for the city, they're going to be paid whether they're working on this grant or not. And so I think the biggest concern in the budgeting issue is if you're hiring people with these sorts of expertise to writing these grants, it would be hard for the city to get somebody to work here and this many people to work here. And then also you're talking about changing our budget to hire them to do so. These are extensive grants and there's a reason why very few companies applied for them. It's extensive what the federal government will require for this grant. It would be hard to have somebody just from the public. It's not impossible, but it would be a challenge for the city to hire up for that.
Yeah, well, I still have a problem with this. The reason why is it does not empower when you're receiving such amount of dollars to do any projects or whatever the case may be, and if it's not helping the citizens of Freeport to be empowered by such fundings, and then you have an outside source coming in, receiving these types of fundings, and the benefit of all of that will not contribute to the citizens of Freeport. And so we need to look at how we want to, if getting the grant, we should be able to devise a plan where it does put people in place to be receiving any kind of job opportunities or whatever the case is. I think we need to look at that so we are not feeling like we're being left out of a $400,000 and some project, and everybody is running away with the dollars. I just can't see how it is that we can, as a citizen, can't benefit from these projects that are being exploited. Maybe I shouldn't use the term exploited, but the fact of the matter is they're coming on our turf, absorbing fundings that we're presenting, but none of our community leaders or personnel or whatever are not receiving any benefit from it.
Manager Boyer, did you have something you want to add to that?
Yes. Alderman Sanders, I just wanted to be clear. This is an agreement to begin the process to do our study so that we can not only correct safety issues in the city of Freeport, but also bring outside money to the city to get those done.
I understand.
Okay. I just wanted to be clear. That's what this is really about.
I understand that, but I want the city citizens to be a part of any kind of funding that is generated by the city for any kind of implementation of any project that we're presenting. And we should be able to start devising a plan before we start voting on something that is not benefiting the cities, the people of the city. So we should be coming up with other kinds of alternatives to get our people involved in any kind of projects that we're benefiting from. So I just don't want firms and companies and contractors coming into our city, absorbing all of our grants, and then disappear. And we're left with questions. You know, I just can't see us doing that. So that's the reason why
Okay.
I'm barking
Mr.
like
Boyer,
I
did you
am.
want to add to that?
Alderman Sanders, I just wanted to let you know that essentially that is not happening here.
Okay.
That's
Yeah.
not what is happening.
All right.
What's happening is we're approving to move forward with a grant for the increase of the various safety measures within the community. And this is essentially with our indigenous staff here with Fairgram, whose parent company happens to be Alta.
Yeah, but I like to see the dollar stay in the city.
Sure.
Okay, that's what I like to see.
Darren, would
Okay.
you like to?
Yeah. So, just to give you a little quick background, one of the reasons Alta bid on this is they're experts in this type of planning, and this is the reason they hired us to be a sub-consultant with them is to have your local representation. So it does meet the needs and bounds of Freeport for this project. That's how they bring the local feel. But they're experts, and you have to remember this is a planning grant, and a planning grant is what is the new term for seeking implementation money, similar to how we got the $15 million, a couple weeks ago. So there's big money out there due to the bipartisan bills that this planning grants can bring back to Freeport to address. It's really designed to address vehicles, bicycles, and pedestrian safety issues within the city of Freeport. As a reminder, we're already part of a group right now that is the Stevenson County that is chasing a county-wide grant throughout multiple counties. We had the idea to chase this ourselves because there's so much implementation money here. So this opportunity seriously costs the city very little money to chase. We were awarded $400,000. It can identify a plan that then we can chase federal money to fix as many of those red spots up there as possible. And you can go after the money for, I believe, 5 years after the planning grant's done. This opportunity will take probably a year to put in place because there is public input sessions. There's surveys that are put out. There's a lot of community input that goes into these, identifying unsafe pedestrian,
I agree with
bicycle, or
you.
vehicle situations.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I like the idea that injecting ourselves in such a project will allow us to further our cause with the same programs that you're referring to, and then probably open wider doors. This is what my opinion is, and I agree with that. So yeah, but I like for us to keep in mind these projects that we're putting on should not lead, if we have alternatives to inject citizens of Freeport into these projects, then let us do so, because I'm not hearing that. And that's what we should be listening to, because we have to listen to our constituents who are saying, well, what about the employment of people that lives in Freeport? These are opening doors for other projects, but we're not absorbing the impact of these projects, and we should be doing that. And that's all I'm saying. I just want to make sure that we don't get sidetracked or sidestepped in regards to what we're doing and what we're trying to do for the citizens of Freeport. That's all. I just don't want that to happen.
Any other council members have something to discuss? Then there's a motion to adopt this resolution. Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Stacy?
Aye.
Shadle?
Aye.
Sanders?
Aye.
Sellers?
Aye.
Clem?
Aye.
Monroe?
Aye.
Simmons? And Parker.
Aye.
The resolution is adopted 8-0.
Item number 15 is the adoption of Resolution 2024-86. Could you please read this?
Resolution approving a grant agreement between the United States Department of Transportation's Federal Highway Administration and the City of Freeport regarding a Safe Streets for All grant.
Thank you. Director Duckman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So this resolution is actually a resolution to enter into the grant agreement with the U.S. Department of Transportation for a Safe Streets for All grant, which provides planning for planning for safer streets in the city of Freeport. And so the total grant award is $500,000, $400,000 of which would be federal funding, and then there's a $100,000 in match. And so, with that being said, staff is recommending approval of accepting this grant agreement.
Is there a motion to adopt?
So moved.
We have a motion made by Alderman Parker,
No.
seconded by Alderman Shadle. Discussion. Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Stacy,
Aye.
Shadle,
Aye.
Sanders, Sellers,
Aye.
Clem,
Aye.
Monroe,
Aye.
Simmons,
Aye.
and Parker.
Aye.
The resolution is adopted 8-0.
Item number 16 is the adoption of Resolution 2024-88. Could you please read this?
Resolution approving engineering agreement with Fairgram for IEPA compost permit.
Thank you, Manager Boyer.
Thank you, Your Honor. Recently, for the last several years, the city has been compiling leaves from the annual leaf program at the city woodlot. Previously, we spent approximately $30,000 per year paying a local farmer for that benefit. In addition to that, we paid a grinding outfit to grind up our woody yard waste and things that accumulated there at least once or twice a year. So it was costing us around $40,000 to $50,000 a year. I believe it was 2021, we contracted with Timber Industries, and they are operating our woodlot. And in exchange for the use of that space, we are able to bring all the leaves from leaf season and the woody yard waste from all the residents and have a place to take it. And then they grind it up and they bag it and sell it in various commercial outlets. Recently, the EPA was doing an on-site inspection at the transfer station, and during that inspection, they became aware that we had this operation going on at the city woodlot, and so they went over and had a look and then notified staff that we needed a composting license from the EPA to continue to do what we were doing all along. So staff is requesting that we move forward with a professional services agreement so that we can put together the permit, the composting permit. And there is quite a bit of things involved: significant topographic study, ongoing operating plan, contingency plan, closure plan, and financial assurance. So with that, I just want to remind council that we're saving anywhere between $40,000 and $50,000 a year minimum, not counting the other intangibles that we get from timber, and that it's staff's request to move forward with this survey.
Is there a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion made by Alderman Shadle, seconded by Alderman Sellers. Discussion. Alderman Sellers.
I'd just like to know, is this just a one-time fee for that license? So
That's-
we get it where it's ours?
I don't believe there's a renewal fee. There might be something with the EPA down the road, but this is to get the initial composting license.
That's correct. Yeah, there'll be, you have to do updates, but not at this cost. It's because primarily over half the cost of this is just a topographic survey that they're requiring for the area that where we store the leaves and debris on. So, just want to present this honestly. If we don't move forward with this license, we don't have a place to go with leaves this season. And it's a lot of work to be able to get this.
Alderman Stacey.
It would not be cheaper to hire in someone that already has the license to come and haul away?
Manager Boyer.
Alderwoman Stacy, anybody else is going to charge us to deal with these leaves. Right now we have timbers grinding them up and getting rid of them for us for free. Essentially, they use them, they resale them later in terms of compost. So this is just a one-time cost at $20,000 to get the compost license to basically comply with EPA's requirements. Requirements, quite honestly, nobody knew at the time that we started setting this up.
If there's no further discussion, Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Stacy?
Anytime now.
No.
Shadle?
Aye.
Sanders?
Aye.
Sellers?
Aye.
Clem?
Aye.
Monroe?
Aye.
Simmons?
Aye.
And Parker.
Aye.
The resolution is adopted 7-1.
Item number 17 is the adoption of Resolution 2024-90. Could you please read this?
Resolution approving permit application with IEPA for transfer permit.
Manager Boyer.
Thank you, Your Honor. This is the second half of this situation with the EPA. They basically are requiring us to have a transfer site permit. There's no financial impact, and staff recommends council approve the landscape waste transfer site permit.
Is there a motion to adopt?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion made by Alderman Shadle, seconded by Alderman Sellers. Discussion? Please take the roll.
Stacy?
No.
Shadle?
Aye.
Sanders?
Aye.
Sellers?
Aye.
Clem?
Aye.
Monroe?
Aye.
Simmons?
Aye.
And Parker.
Aye.
This resolution is adopted 7-1.
Item number 18 is the adoption of Resolution 2024-91. Could you please read this?
Resolution approving agreement with Fairgram for additional contract management, construction engineering, and staking services for the Adams Avenue Improvement Project.
Manager Boyer.
Thank you, Your Honor. The city's been working on the reconstruction of Adams Avenue since May of '23. It has been a challenging project throughout the construction, and it's being a section of Freeport built in and before 1900. The underground portion of the utility work has resulted in numerous complications with franchise partners, Nicor and ComEd being two of those, along with multiple unforeseen storm sewer issues. Additionally, full corridor sidewalks from Float to Clinton were added to the project after the bid to approve the area, which has included significant design and survey staking requirements. Substantial engineering modifications, man-hours have been required to keep the project moving forward. The Adams Avenue project has been discussed throughout construction with city leadership on complications and significant modifications to the project scope. Unknown underground encounters items were unforeseen and have required field modifications to tie into old infrastructure, resulting in additional cost. With some of the Nicor and ComEd changes it made since to incorporate complete sidewalk replacement now in the area, the city and the engineer tracked these changes and agreed to have a contract modification when more is known. The current contract funding was exhausted, and these are the items that were added to the scope. 15,000 square feet of sidewalk design, driveway apron designs, tree removal coordination, sidewalk construction staking, sidewalk and driveway construction engineering, homeowner coordination, slope grading for numerous properties, field layout and negotiation, Nicor coordination meetings and construction planning, ComEd coordination meetings and construction planning, Kenwood storm arch and manhole redesign and replacement of the entire area. That was the stormwater arch that fell apart as we constructed the road. Iroquois storm sewer design and layout. There was areas where the storm was running uphill and it was creating a bottleneck for stormwater flow. And then push and bore during a bedrock at Jackson and Spring to install the water main. We also had traffic management over the winter and water shutdown issues and coordination with staff, but we are dealing with currently we're building up our field crews, so it's been a little more complex for getting the shutdowns done. So the financial impact is $185,000 for additional professional services, construction engineering, staking, and project management that has resulted due to the above conditions and project completion extension. So it is staff's recommendation to approve this additional services agreement for added services and time to complete the project.
Is there a motion to adopt?
So move.
Second.
Been motion made by Alderman Sellers, seconded by Alderman Shadle. Alderman Sanders.
Yeah. Manager Boyer, I see someone else is managing our city at this point in time, according to what I've been going over. You're suggesting this, or your staff is suggesting this?
Alderman Sanders, I'm suggesting it. We're dealing with a 140-year-old plus corridor.
Okay.
We started the project with an understanding of what was required, and as we go along, there becomes unknowns that come to
Okay.
the surface.
Yeah, those things is fine, but we're not being updated about these things that are coming forward. We're not just ready to jump on the bandwagon until we get a full description of what is coming. You guys just can't make the plannings and then expect us to just accept them without having the proper knowledge of understanding what this management that Fair and Graham is going to be trying to implement throughout the city, especially over there on Adams Street and any place else. We need to know so we have the proper information so we can move forward on any voting that we need to do properly. I don't want to be voting on things that you have not brought forward to us that we can understand, and then give an assessment to who we're getting our management consultation from, because if they're managing everything, when did this come into play? Did we have a vote on the fact that Fair and Graham can come in and just manage the city in that regards to the projects that we're presenting, getting to after the voting of everything that we just did this year? Are they the only players in the game? That's
Manager
my
Boyer,
question.
can you answer that?
Alderman Sanders, we're paying Fairgram to manage this project. That's correct.
I understand that, but are they
Council
the only
approved.
players in the game? That's what I'm asking.
I don't know what you mean by players.
Well, other contractors, other management groups. I mean, we're under the attorney of Fair and Graham on every aspect of anything that jumps off in the city. Are we getting the bang for our bucks? Is what I'm asking when we hire out like that. Are we getting what we? What I also want to say is, if we don't have a fine-tooth comb about what is happening, then we're just following the discretion of another agency, consultant, or contractor, and the council are not seeing this in writing. We're not seeing this stuff, and so it helps us to understand what Fair and Graham our intents are, how we are to move, what we should be assessing. With any agency or contractors or whatever, Fair and Graham or anybody else, we should be able to observe and read the fine prints of the things that Fair and Graham is doing. We don't need speculations. We don't need to be fed with a spoon. We don't need that as you see fit. We need to know the whole ball of wax before you make this kind of introduction to the council, and then say, well, this is what the staff come up with. Well, hell, sorry about that. The council have not had any briefing on any of those things. And are we voting tonight on this agreement?
That'd
Yes,
be
it is-
staff
it is adoption for
request.
this resolution.
How many readings have we had?
Resolutions are one time.
One time.
And you just can't keep taking other hands.
Wait a minute, hold it.
When you stop talking and somebody else, then you have to have permission to start back up again. And
Oh,
other
that's
people,
that's how you want to play it?
that is how you play it. So
Oh.
Alderman Shadle, did you have something?
Every one of those items that were on that list has been brought to us at the council at various times. We ran into trouble on Adams Street with this issue, with the stormwater. I remember talk of that. I remember talk of all of these things. that we have been spoon-fed, Alderman Sanders. It's whether you were awake or not.
Alderman Monroe?
Yeah, good play. Actually, quite a bit of this has come to council, and my question is, you know, when I look through this list, sidewalk construction, staking, that was in the original layout. I mean, how is the underground really changing? I mean, are we changing the elevation? Are we changing? Explain to us what's going on, because when I do 15,000 feet of sidewalk's 3 feet wide, am I right?
5 feet wide.
5 feet wide? Okay, so it's little less than a mile worth of sidewalk. And we look through a lot of these things. This should have been, I mean, these are, in a sense, the sloping of the yard. We knew how far down we were going to have to go. We knew the base. We knew where we were going to build this back to. How can the sidewalk, and I'm just using that one example, change that significantly that it requires $185,000 additional engineering work? And, you know, we're looking at driveway apron designs. We're tying them in all the driveways similarly to what we do everywhere else. We have standards that are set out. Tree removals, I get, there's probably trees that needed to come down that didn't. But we know how much a tree removal is. $1,000, $1,500, couple grand, whatever it might be. But when you look at some of this, slope grading for numerous properties, these are going back to the drawing board again. And, you know, a lot of us don't, to Alderman Shadle's point, sleep through these meetings. We also don't bilk the city for hundreds of thousands of dollars as a government contractor. And we need to make sure we're getting our money's worth. I mean, we still haven't even paid Willett Hoffman, to my understanding, and we're still going back and forth. And that we were told that they didn't do a good job. And the people that said that they didn't do a good job is now not doing a good job, according to what I'm looking at.
Manager Boyer?
I'm not going to speak to the Willett Hoffman issue. You and I can, you know, update. I can update you at a later time on that one. I want to just mention you're looking at some additional time that's included in a like $11-12 million project here. So let me mention something. The water main, the jack and bore that happened at the outfall that goes out to the river, okay? I believe it was some of the problem solving that Farrah Graham did that saved us hundreds of thousands of dollars on that all by itself. We've had innumerable things that we've run into, and they have jumped in, taking care of it so the project can move forward. This has been going on for a long time. It's in the community's best interest to get this thing going and get it finished up as soon as possible. And Farrah Graham's not counting the pennies when they got to come in there and make sure that things are moving properly and they have somebody on site to make decisions at the time that they need to be made.
Darren?
Yeah, I'll respond to all those questions, James. Every one of those items that's listed there is outside the original scope of work. The sidewalk staking that was included in the project was just the 88 corners. There was never an intent to replace all the sidewalk in the corridor. Due to the changes that NICOR made, we ended up having to make a field decision with the city to move along and change all the sidewalk in the corridor from one end to the other, from Float to basically Clinton. So none of that was in except for the 88 corners, because the city at that time did not think we could really afford it. I was able to get the settlement with NICOR to help pay for all of that sidewalk, which was $184,000 that nobody else would have ever went after. All the sidewalk, all the grading that you're discussing out there is due to the additional sidewalk that has been added to the project. And the storm sewer issues mentioned were major issues, major costs of the project. The Kenwood Arch fell apart when it was unearthed, unbeknownst to us, right? It was 100 years old, nothing we can do about it. The Shawnee storm sewer, ran uphill, never could have drained ever. It had no purpose. So we have tracked those costs throughout the project. I've updated the council as we did them, and we made an agreement that when we got to a point and we needed additional funding to finish the project, we would do that. If you look back at our construction contract for this job, it was a very low percentage of the job when we started hoping that we could get it done for that much. But obviously, it's taken more to manage it. We've had a lot of difficult situations with NICOR and ComEd that has taken significant time and is one of the reasons the project is not done to date. But they are our franchise partners. It's been documented. The city's been copied on all of those things. That's not unilateral decisions that I'm making. I'm making good decisions based on the best interest of the people of Freeport. I can tell you that while this is a lot, I feel like it's fair. We're already underwater on the project, but we've continued to staff it. We're continuing to man it. And I had City Manager Boyer out there today to go over all these issues. We were out there for 2 hours to rectify it. When you're in construction on a $12 million project, we have to make decisions. There's literally 25 to 50 people working out there at all times. We can't come back and ask for every decision. This is a very large project, and in the real scope of the entire corridor of work, there has been a lot of added work. And I don't consider ourselves nickel and dimers, and I try not to come back and ask for money, and I try not to charge the full fee if we don't need it. So I believe this year, this is the first time I've had to come back on any project and ask for additional funds.
Alderman Monroe.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So this is a three-part question. Part number one, what percentage of the project has been paid to Fair Graham? Do we know?
I would need a little bit of time to prepare that, get with finance to find out where precisely we stand with the project.
I believe 90%.
No, is of the project. So the overall project, Fair Graham has taken 90% of the funding?
No, 90% of our fee, which was, I don't remember the full amount.
That's not his question.
That's not my question. My question is what percentage of the overall project has gone to Fair Graham or is going to Fair Graham? So if it's $10 million, is it 5%? Is it 4%? Is it 10? That's my question. Question number one.
About 5%.
Okay. Question number two. So understand NICOR has become a very sore subject for me recently. We've got several businesses in town that are having difficulties getting their businesses open due to them not installing things, not following up, not even getting back to them. So what amount, so basically, did they understand where I know they had a large line that went through that area. What has their lack of information or lack of transparency caused us to go over on this project?
Well, I would like to be careful with this. They had a high-pressure gas main they wanted to replace that was in the right-of-way. In negotiations, we were able to relocate that high-pressure gas main in a way that allowed them to actually put us, or basically pay for the construction of sidewalk in a section that did not have originally sidewalk involved. So with that being said, yes, it is a challenge to get out there, get the permits approved, get NICOR feedback from the engineers, and get everything done in a timely fashion. We've had a lot of unpredicted changes to this project due to the fact that it's such an old corridor. And as we go through, I think that you'll find that some of the largest charges have to do more with that stormwater change from the Stone Arch and getting that engineered and fixing the storm at Iroquois. These are things that were already there, no way to know beforehand. And we have to bear in mind that when you have someone who is doing a good job for you, you have to be a little flexible and recognize when there are things that are outside their control that we have to basically come back and support them on. So that's why we're bringing this to council, and we have a lot of work going on citywide, and there's a lot of things that we are managing all at the same time. So we have to be cognizant that our partner has been doing an excellent job making sure this thing is going to get done on time and basically on budget.
Alderman Sellers.
Yes, so you're saying that all these new, these things that City Manager Boyer just mentioned for the $185,000, there are new things that have come up?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay. And then how much longer do we have to wait for, how much longer is this project going to take?
We're talking with the Helm Company, or Helm Group, excuse me. We're anticipating being done with pavement hopefully by Thanksgiving. Restoration might be a little bit beyond that with dirt work and things like that, but they installed a very long section of curb today, so we're getting closer than we've been. I can't get a firm date with them, but our deadline was supposed to be Thanksgiving for paving, and that's usually about the deadline for paving for the season. So I think they'll make it as far as progress goes, and what I see in the questions that they're asking out there. Again, it's a very large project. It's got a lot of people in that corridor affected. Obviously, you guys that live over there know that for sure. Again, I try not to come back and ask for fees that are additional to projects. In this case, I wouldn't bring it back if I didn't feel like it's justified. All of those situations have been added to the project. I feel very fair and justified asking for these fees based on the changes that would happen out there. To one of James's questions out there about NICOR, when we unearthed NICOR, so I'm just giving you some background. When utility companies give you design Julies, they give you locations. They don't have exact depths on where their utilities are. It's just hey, we think it's within here and it might be within 3 feet of this mark. When we unearthed the NICOR line, it was actually in the sub base of the road, which is illegal and we can't build that, which created a lot of complications in the design. If anybody recalls driving Adams before, it was a very humped street, right? Almost, difficult to drive on because the sides of the road are so cupped. We're flattening the road out. We're gonna let it drain, but we're also flattening the road out to make it more drivable. When we're doing that, it's a very large pavement section because it's a heavy truck route. It was been identified like that for years. So it's got 9 inches of asphalt with a foot of stone under it. You can't build the road with the gas main in the middle of the base. It just will not work. So people underestimate the time it takes to negotiate with Commonwealth Edison and NICOR to get changes made in this corridor. NICOR I've been working with for over a year and a half to get these changes made, and Commonwealth Edison we've been working with for over 2 years, and they just completed last week.
Alderman Sanders.
Yes, did you say anything about something collapsed? Storm collapsed?
Yeah.
How big was that storm, sir?
54-inch arch.
54-inch arch, and where was it located?
Where the big pothole was at Kenwood and Adams, where that intersection comes together.
Yeah.
So what happens is a lot of times when you start unearthing concrete that's 50 plus years old, as weather and oxidation gets to it and rain, it starts to fall apart. We ran into a very large situation that actual storm sewer was about half full of rock inside of it.
Yeah.
No way to even get inside of it.
Yeah, the extra funding that is requested of is to do the repair of that particular storm arch, or we're going to put something different in there.
We've already replaced it. It was
You already
in the field.
replaced it?
This is not for the construction cost. This is for the engineering portion of the
Okay.
field engineering that we're doing.
Okay. So are we determining what storm sewer arches that are hundreds of years old? Are we making any changes in that? Because we're putting roadway in now, new construction roadways, and anything property owners and things like that can develop into a situation as well. Are we looking at those potential
So
things
those are
that?
field decisions that we have to make as we unearth things. We have no idea what the condition of a storm is that's 8
Right.
feet below the ground until we open it up. So that specific situation, we unearthed it and we removed it right away with an elliptical pipe that upgraded the storm channel there.
So
Beyond
this-
that, we can't take it any farther.
Actually, Manager Boyer had his hand up next.
Oh, okay.
Alderman Sanders, I'd like to add to that. We're repairing the stuff the correct way as we go, but because the corridor is so old, there's so many questions about what we're going to hit, and some of it gets very expensive. I want to also point you to a recent example on Iroquois Street. We're working on Iroquois, but we had 200 feet of sewer line that was collapsed in a in a very sandy, squishy area that then required additional base material to be put in. So it's like, we have our best guess on what it's going to cost to design and engineer something, and then you get into it and you find out you didn't have all the information, and there's really no way to know all that information up front.
Yeah, those areas do have, I'm sorry. Yeah, those areas do have a history, and I'm quite sure you guys are very aware of that. But before we start unearthing anything, did we do an inspection according to history, what the conditions of
Manager Ware.
those areas were before we dove into digging or excavating or whatever the case may be?
We do. We did recently. We worked. There was a sewer line installed to a home. I forget the name of the court. Do you recall off the top of your head? What was that? The Salem Court. So Salem Court, we had some core samples that showed that we were good to go on road base, and so we thought, well, what we'll do is instead of having a nasty patch on a falling apart cul-de-sac, we'll just go ahead and pave the cul-de-sac. We get into the cul-de-sac, we have no base, even though the core samples indicated that we did, and it turned into a big challenge. So every time we get into one of these projects, you do the best you can for your homework. You have you look at the documents that you have, you look at the design, you look at the GIS, you do your core samples, you do various inspections on there to inform your overall design. But at the end of the day, you don't know what you've got until you get into it.
Right.
And so sometimes that's a great thing, but sometimes it's a challenge, like we've got on Oak. So we're in the middle of Oak. We're doing Oak from south to Empire to Galena. We get to the Empire section. It's nothing but brick. We did suspect that, but it's really in worse shape than we even anticipated in terms of what was there under the brick from Empire to Galena. So I just got to, when we're working in the older parts of town, we're always dealing with a certain amount of question as to what we've got when we get into it. And so Adams, being as old of a corridor as it was, really, there's nobody alive that even remembers when that road was put in, and there's really no good records on it. So when we get into a stone arch that we didn't know was there, we knew there was something there, but we don't know what it is. And we get in there, it's 54 inches, and you got to replace that right now because the next time the rain comes, it better have a place to go. So that's kind of what we're dealing with. We're trying to do the best we can with what we got, and I feel like we're getting a very efficient value from Frere Graham, and the fact that they're willing to get out there, get the job done. It's a huge benefit. If we had to stop construction every time we had a problem out there, and that would be a problem.
Yeah, it would be nice to be able to go back and look at historical facts and events that took place back in sometimes where there has been there has been inspections in these areas that we're referring to, where storm arches are there could be video about these areas. And I don't know if we've taken up the time to look at certain filming of videos of certain arches. The ones that are really bad, especially the ones that are down by the sheriff department and places of that nature down there on Exchange and Galena and things like that. There's big storm arches that you can drive cars through them, that kind of thing. And there was an issue there. I don't know if you guys evaluated that or not, but eventually something is going to occur there. A building is going to cave over into it if we don't attend to it. But I'm just looking at the fact that if there's potential problems, especially where we're putting new roadways and things like that in, could we do an inspection of these lines before we go forward with it?
Manager Boyer.
If I could just speak to that point, we do that. However, in the case with the stone arch, it was slump poured in the bottom, and you couldn't drive the camera truck down there. Plus, it was half full of rock, so you couldn't even squeeze the thing in there. We do that everywhere we can, but on Iroquois, for instance, you had a 200-foot sewer collapse. So you get to one end, and you say, oh, it's collapsed. So you come in from another way, oh, it's collapsed. Well, you don't know if that's one continuous collapse or you got just a couple of collapses in a little area like we had on Center. Center, we had 7 collapses, but they were small and they were localized. So when you camera it, you don't know. Okay, I got a 200, 300-foot span here. I don't know if it's just one cave-in or if I've got 2 or 3 small cave-ins in the middle and nothing else. So you can see how this is kind of a challenge to predict, even with the best tools.
Yeah. Thank you.
Darren?
Yeah, one other thing I'd like to point out is our original contract, I believe, had a date of completion by July 1st of '23. That was tied to the amount, and so had we got the project done in that time, our fee would have, we wouldn't be here asking for this, right? Because we would have had enough fee to complete it. But due to the extra carrying time, which we're not in control of as a city, nor as the engineer, those add up to additional fees to finish projects. That's very typical in municipal construction.
All right, Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Stacy?
Aye.
Shadle?
Aye.
Sanders?
Aye.
Sellers?
Aye.
Clem?
Aye.
Monroe?
Aye.
Simmons?
Aye.
And Parker.
Aye.
The resolution is adopted 8-0.
And item number 19 is the adoption of Resolution 2024-92. Could you please read this?
Resolution approving agreement with Fairgram for construction observation, contract management, and construction layout services related to Ridge Drive and Westwood Avenue construction project.
Manager Boyer.
Thank you, Your Honor. The city, with Fairgraham's assistance, designed, permitted, and bid water main along with street reconstruction for Ridge Drive from Wood to Park and Westwood Avenue from Ridge to Laurel. These 2 residential areas have had a significant amount of water main breaks and boil orders in recent years, requiring the age-spun cast water main to be fully replaced. Helm Group was awarded this construction project and plans to start water main installation on August 28th. A pre-construction meeting was held on August 14th. Fairgraham will provide professional construction engineering services to manage the project on behalf of the city. The engineering services will consist of full-time observation, inspection, along with project management and construction, survey, layout, and staking. This construction project is nearly $1 million improvement in an investment in this corridor and will require a tight schedule with added hours to complete. Due to the poor shape of the water main in the area with numerous breaks and repairs, this was a priority utility replacement project for this year. The asphalt street will be reconstructed upon completion of the water main. The financial impact is $129,850 for additional professional services, including construction, engineering, staking, and project management. The construction was part of the this project was part of the 2024 budget, and staff recommends moving forward with this agreement.
Is there a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Second.
We'll take Alderman Clem there since he has been patiently trying to get in there. And seconded by Alderman Sellers. Discussion. Alderman Stacy?
Okay. So is this project going to be done and completed before Adams is?
I believe it should be completed at the same time.
Yeah, the contract date is November 30th. It should be complete. Now, again, restoration might spill into December, but we tried to coincide it with having paving complete yet this year so it can be plowed.
Okay, I understand contract dates. However, that has not made a difference on Adams Street. So what I hope don't happen is that this project is completed by November and Adams Street sits.
If there's no further
I
discussion.
agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for saying that, Alderperson Stacy. You reminded me. So are this the same Helm, the same group that's doing the work on Adams Street?
Yes.
So how do they plan to do both?
Helm Group's a very big company. They have multiple crews. They have lots of jobs going on in numerous areas. We probably have 5-6 projects going with them right now.
That's what I'm talking about. We have a lot going on in this city.
Alderman Simmons?
Did they do Pearl City too?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. You have to, let me comment on that quickly. Sometimes when you're not dealing with it every day, you don't recognize the scale of the project. Pearl City Road, in equivalation to Adams Avenue, Pearl City Road is a tenth of the job that Adams Avenue is, right? Just in cost alone. So while that went much quicker, we didn't have any utility work on it, and it was completely like a pavement type of project. That's one of the reasons that one went faster. I just want to, in comparison, I know Adams seems like it's been under construction forever, which it has been a long time, but it is a enormously large project. And I do think Helm Group would have been completed with it by now if it had not been for our franchise partners that were not getting the utilities relocated. That is something that is out of their control, and we can't penalize them for that. They don't control ComEd or Frontier or NICOR, and neither can the city. We can ask them for help. As a matter of fact, I'll be glad to share it. I have numerous emails that we begged for help from these people, but we're not control of their process. Anybody that's dealt with the franchise partners know it's very difficult to get things relocated and moved in a timely fashion.
Manager Boyer.
I have a question for you, Darren. In the case of ComEd and NICOR, when was the first permit request made from both of those franchise partners?
2020.
So 2020.
Yes. 2020.
Alderman Stacy.
I understand this is a big project. We knew that from the beginning. But instead of starting this one over here and this one over here and this one over here, why don't we double up and complete one before keep moving?
Well, Alderman Stacy, that's the beauty of a big company. They have multiple crews.
But apparently we need more help on Adams.
Well, again,
And-
it comes back to ComEd and the other. It isn't Helm's fault.
I'm not saying that it's Helm's fault. But now that ComEd and NICOR have done, you said that they finally have done their part, so why not double up on Helm's crew and get it done? That's all I'm saying, before starting another one. You're saying we have 25 to 50 people out there. Will it make a difference if we had 75?
Well, yes, it would, but there's only so many people that can trip over top of each other and work in the same area. And so it's a order of operations and means and methods, and it's kind of like building a sandwich. You got to start from the bottom up and work your way up. They're getting close. You can see that if you've been through the section. The curb going in is the last piece before pavement, and some of these, I'm going to call them restoration issue type things that we're dealing with as we go through the corridor. They're making significant progress. We've got tons of water main, storm, utilities. It's not seen to the naked eye, unless you're out there staking it, seeing it going in. So they have had significant progress, and we don't want to demean Helm at all. They've done a very good job on the corridor. We are going to have a very good project and product when we're done. I think you guys will be tremendously happy with the outcome when we get there.
Yeah, but we got to remember, this is about the agreement on Ridge and Westwood, so we shouldn't even be talking about Adams. This is about Westwood and Ridge. So let's get back on topic.
Wow.
Any further discussion? Madam Clerk,
Yeah.
take the roll. Or Alderman Sanders.
Yeah, you put a damper on my spirit when you said that. But anyway, I just wanted to find out if you can keep continuing like you're doing right now and giving us update on progress, like you're doing all the time. Just keep us in tune with what you're doing and what is being planned and managed, or whatever the case is. I think not knowing is part of our problem, not knowing. So keep us close, updated with the progress that you're making.
Madam Clerk, take the roll.
Stacy?
Aye.
Shadle?
Aye.
Sanders?
Aye.
Sellers?
Aye.
Clem?
Aye.
Monroe?
No.
Simmons? Parker.
Aye.
The resolution is adopted 7-1.
Item number 20 is the adoption of Resolution 2024-93. Could you please read this?
Resolution approving concrete sidewalk sealing and staining on Chicago Avenue by NICAM Construction.
Manager Boyer.
Thank you, Your Honor. The city requires doing sealing and staining of the stamped concrete on Chicago Avenue annually. The city requested contractor cost estimates to do professional sealing and staining on Chicago Avenue sidewalks in the Festival District. City staff did not get any response interested in work from from other than NICAM Construction. NICAM originally quoted $30,000, but agreed to do the work for time and material. City crews helped with cleaning and traffic control to offset some of the costs due to the nature of the Northern Illinois salt usage in the corridor. This will be an annual required to maintain item. City will financial impact is the city will pay NICAM $16,157.21 for the sealing and staining work that is included. It's staff recommendation to approve the NICAM invoice.
Is there a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Second.
There'll be a motion made by Alderman Shadle, seconded by Alderman Clem. Discussion? Alderman Sellers.
Yes, I like to, so every year we have to have this stained at $16,000, is that what you're saying?
Well, originally, I think it was the city's intent that with this design, it would be essentially done and maybe some maintenance every so many years. I think our experience, and it was my understanding with Stenstrom, or one of our contractors that did the original work, that perhaps we applied the finish too soon before the concrete was fully cured. They came back, they reworked it, but some of the harsh salt chemicals that are being used are contributing to the breakdown of the finish. And I think on the safe side, I think we need to set the expectation that we're going to be maintaining this. Whether we have to maintain it every single year, I don't know. We are we did experiment with a couple of different coatings and stains to see what if it would work any differently. But again, we're kind of in a position here where there is some maintenance here that appears that we're going to have to do in the future. So.
Alderman Stacy.
Where had you seen this type of design at? Where did this type of design that's very slippery come from?
As far as I understand, it was part of the original streetscape design that happened before I came to Freeport.
I think it's actually in 2017.
It was mimicked off of City of Dubuque. What the real issue is with the salt is not only the decay of the salt, but as many of the shop owners apply it quite heavily down there, which is understandable, but as people walk on it and they grind it into the concrete, it takes the sealer off the concrete.
That's why that should have been considered, because we use salt on our streets. In Iowa, they use sand.
It was considered, and the city at that time chose to go through with stamped concrete instead of pavers. And so I understand what you're saying, but that was the choice the city made at the time.
If there's no further discussion, Madam Clerk, take the roll.
Stacy?
No.
Shadle?
Aye.
Sanders?
No.
Sellers?
Aye.
Clem?
Aye.
Monroe?
No.
Simmons? And Parker.
Aye.
The resolution is adopted 5-3.
Okay, we'll move on to item number 21, which is the adoption of Resolution 2024-94. Could you please read this?
Resolution authorizing and approving a purchase of service agreement with the Stevenson County Senior Center doing business as Senior Resource Center.
Director Duckman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The Senior Resource Center has provided operational services for the Pretzel City area transit program since 2018. The current service agreement expired in June 30th of 2024. Staff has been working with the Senior Resource Center on finalizing an agreement, and that is why it's coming to you in August when it expired in June. We've been working with the Senior Resource Center since April, finalizing the language on this agreement. With that being said, staff is recommending approval of this resolution to enter into a contract with the Senior Resource Center to provide transportation services for the Pretzel City Area Transit Program.
Is there a motion to adopt?
So move.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Sellers, seconded by Alderman Shadle. Is there any discussion? Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Stacy,
Aye.
Shadle,
Aye.
Sanders,
Aye.
Sellers,
Aye.
Clem,
Aye.
Monroe,
Aye.
Simmons, and Parker.
Aye.
The resolution is adopted 8-0.
Item number 22, could you please read the approval of the bid?
For a bid opening on August 14th, 2024, fence installation at 1205 South Chicago Avenue.
Thank you, Director Duckman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the Union School located at 1205 South Chicago Avenue has long been vacant and abandoned. City of Freeport purchased the property from the Stevenson County trustee who acquired the property for unpaid taxes. Staff is currently working with local contractors to prepare a budget for the demolition of the structure for 2025. And in the meantime, staff would like to secure the site by constructing a 6-foot-tall chain link fence around it. City held a bid opening on August 14th, and we received one bid from CMM and Associates out of Rockford, Illinois. And staff did solicit bids from 4 contractors, including CMM, and that bid opening was also published in the Journal Standard on August 8th. And purpose for mentioning this is that I also was surprised we received one bid, but I did speak with several contractors, one local, and just weren't interested in bidding on the project. So with that being said, staff is recommending issuing a contract to CMM and Associates in the amount of $30,000 for the installation of fence at 1205 South Chicago Avenue.
So move.
Is motion to approve? Motion made by Alderman Sellers
Second.
and seconded by Alderman Shadle. Alderman Sanders?
By any chance, we heard the guy earlier today in regards to fencing around this school building, is that what it is?
Yes.
And, but here's the thing, what is the real purpose of the fencing? Why are we not getting a full description of why this fencing is needed and what's its purpose? Why are we safeguarding a school that has been dilapidated for centuries? I'm gonna say centuries. I don't know how many years it's been, but what kind of exploration have we been doing with this whole site that's been just sitting in a neighborhood as an eyesore? I got my own speculations, but I just want to hear, have anybody else understood why we're safeguarding this thing and dumping money into it? I understand that for the safety of the community, for the safety of the neighborhoods and things like that, but what's our real purpose of safeguarding this building, and the reason why we have not tried to demo this building? And I think the general public should know about why it is we're not moving forward in that cause. Why is it that we're spending thousands of dollars to put a fencing there when the next move should have been
Director Duckman, you want to
demo
answer that?
this building?
Sure. Well, I am working with, I had one preliminary quote from a contractor. As I stated in the memorandum, my first quote from a contractor came out to $450,000 to demolish the building. And I'm working with another contractor just to get a few other quotes before I could put together a budget that I would be putting in 2025 to demolish this site. This is it's an expensive project that would fall out of a typical, demolition budget. It's going to cost some money to take down a school that big. So in the meantime, you have a site that I personally walk through myself, and it's the school itself is dangerous, and if somebody in the public were to walk in or break into the building, they would be at risk of hurting themselves. It also is a place that could harbor illegal activities, just as, you know, I've heard complaints other than Mr. Carroll that this site is a problematic for crime harboring. So there's two parts there immediately. Number one, it's protecting public safety while I prepare a budget for the demolition of this property that I would present to council. And then second, it's also trying to help keep out crime and people from breaking into this school.
Is there a 3-4 part to this whole event that it's trying to determine all of the things that you just talked about? Because my speculation or my understanding is it could be an environmental hazard to that community, just like I'm not going to compare to one other areas that I know of, but would that also be part of it? Because we don't want to tear down a building if it's going to cause environmental protection problems to the community, because that building has been sitting there, and it's not just because of crime or any of those variables or those things that you just spoke of. It's because I suspect that the environment of that building could be exposed to the community and it cause people problems. And I'm just putting that out there simply because it's not just for crime ventures or people breaking into the building. There's a problem there at that building, and we need to know as citizens of Freeport what is keeping that building up for decades on time, and we need to know that.
Well, I can tell you the answer to your question is not environmental. When this building is eventually put out to bid for demolition, there's going to be an asbestos report from a licensed environmental contractor that goes. That's part of the demolition. The reason this building has sat there as long as it has is Freeport and many other communities, especially Northwest Illinois, who are struggling with blight. People living out of town end up purchasing these properties and sitting on them. And city of Freeport is not alone in this, and they will sit there, own the properties, and fight the city tooth and nail and just hold on to the property. And the prior property owner had done that for quite some time, and there were a few other absentee problematic property owners. And what happened is finally this absentee property owner stopped paying taxes on it, and that's when the city of Freeport purchased it from the county trustee in 2023. So the reason for inaction or the property sitting as long as it has much more to do with the fact that there's been absentee property owners just holding on to it for no good reason.
Okay.
It's a big problem.
If there's no further discussion, Madam Clerk, take the roll.
Stacy?
Aye.
Shadle?
Aye.
Sanders?
Aye.
Sellers?
Aye.
Clem?
Aye.
Monroe?
Aye.
Simmons? The motion passes 7-0.
Move on to reports from department heads. Finance?
Nothing this evening, Your Honor.
Thank you. Community Development?
Nothing tonight, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Public Works?
Yeah, I got a handful of reports for projects. Contractors are out redoing the restoration on Greenfield and Sullivan currently. Hope to be complete with it within the week. Restoration on Bradmar is forthcoming. I've confirmed with Fishers they're planning to dress up all the restoration over there. Lead service line phase 3, we're about halfway complete. I believe we have close to 300 services done. Oak Street from South Street to Galena is currently under construction. We plan to pave Oak Street Wednesday on the south half to Empire. And then we have a lot of cleanup effort with the age of the street and the age of the concrete. Iroquois is also under construction. We've been running into a lot of road-based failures there. And we also, as Rob alluded to earlier, we have close to a 240-foot sewer repair that had to be done there for a collapsed pipe. Adams Avenue, we kind of touched on. They're making good progress. We're hoping to be done by the end of November. Ridge Street, traffic control will go up tomorrow, and trees should start coming down at the end of the week or next week, and then the following week, water main will start. We're working on some cost estimates for the city for a water main extension out to Open Bible. I'm also getting the price for the fuel station at Island updated, so we can try to lock in a price for the 2024 season and have it constructed next year. And then another project we're working on is with Casey's. They're looking at putting diesel fuel island in behind their location. And then finally, I'm working with the Yield Program and MW Contractors to try to bring a contract to council on the first meeting in September with some revisions.
Thank you. Communication?
Thank you. Good evening. I gave each of you a small handout. This was put on Facebook, and also a press release was put out to those who are subscribed to the city news, which I'd like to read tonight. Freeport residents and invested community members are invited to share their input on the next city budget as City of Freeport staff prepare the city's budget for fiscal year 2025. The public is invited to attend a public input meeting at 5 p.m. on Tuesday, September 3rd, which is right before the council meeting, right here. City Manager Rob Boyer and Finance Department staff will provide general information on the budget process before meeting attendees will be able to share their thoughts on what they would like to see funded in their neighborhoods and the community at large. The city's 2025 budget timeline extends from September to November, with the final document to be approved in December 2024. The public will have another opportunity to offer input during an October 28th meeting of the same nature. If you didn't get any of that, it is also in your emails. Thank you.
Thank you. Fire?
Nothing this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Police?
Thank you. This past Saturday, we unfortunately lost another member of our community to an unnecessary act of gun violence. These incidents do not represent our city as a whole. I just want the public to know that this is an active and fluid investigation. In fact, I just got off the phone with my Detective Bureau lieutenant right now, who provided me with some information, some updates that's going on as I speak. The police department does, though, appreciate information coming in, and we just ask anyone who may know something or saw something to contact the police department to report it, even if it's anonymous.
Thank you. Library?
I just want to say that our summer reading is over, and our youth librarian will be at the September COW to give you a full report. And the next time we meet will be the same week that we are replacing the carpet in our meeting room, which is, if anybody has been in there lately, greatly needed. So we're excited about it. That's it.
Thank you. IT? Thank you. City Manager?
Thank you, Your Honor. Just wanted to bring one thing to council's attention. Staff has become aware of a utility distribution issue for water to Open Bible, insufficient access to water for a fully functioning sprinkler system. So staff will be moving forward and putting together some proposals that will be coming before council for review and approval. So just wanted to give you a heads up on that.
Thank you. Regarding Chief Schenberger's comments, we are extremely upset about the tragedy that occurred over the weekend, as our community has made obvious before, and we agree gun violence is never okay. So our condolences to the family and friends of the victim. Alderman Stacy?
Nothing.
Alderman Shadle?
Nothing tonight.
Alderman Sanders?
Nothing.
Alderman Sellers?
Nothing.
Alderman Clem?
Nothing.
Alderman Monroe?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I've been made aware, many members in my ward and from other wards on the west side of town, where we've been getting bombarded with unlicensed vendors going door to door. Complaints are aplenty. There have been calls to the police department, from my understanding, and they're not getting resolved quickly enough. I would like the city to deal with those ASAP if possible. Also, as far as the work on just off Greenfield on the streets there, some of the concrete looks a little shady, so I'd like a second opinion on some of the side work to some of the driveways, because I'm very concerned that the first winter comes along, it'll crack and chip up, if that's possible. Beyond that, I think we really need to ask a question about Adams Avenue and, you know, some of the issues that are ongoing on over there, and are we okay with it? Here we had a debate tonight about an 8-foot fence that's potentially 24 feet long at most, but yet we have a high-pressure gas main within the bed of the roadway over there, and the road was deteriorated to a point that a plow could have easily gotten into that road bed. And I think we need to make sure we're checking up on our partners, and I use that term very loosely because I question if they're really our partners. I think we've got to do better to protect the citizens of Freeport, not just from a law enforcement perspective, but from all departments in the city that we overlook, and we're double checking every penny that's going out, because we don't have enough money to pay for all of the work that we need to do. And when I hear of projects that are $16,000 and they're recurring annually, that's very concerning when we're doing projects, and we should have known better. But I'll leave it at that.
Alderman Simmons?
No, thank you.
Alderman Parker?
Nothing tonight.
Public comments? Seeing no public comments, I will entertain a motion to
got one
adjourn.
now.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, go ahead.
Late a little.
Hey, good evening. My name is Joshua. Madam Mayor, thank you. City Council. I just had a couple questions. I'm confused about a couple things. In resolutions, I believe this one passed, but it stuck with me, so I really can't ask later. The compost issue with the field that we take all of our yard debris to. I don't understand why there's a company, if I understood correctly, there's a company that has agreed, we've given them, let them use the land, no rent, we take them free product, free material, that's their business, they bag it up, they do whatever to it, and they sell it. And now we're gonna pay $20,000 for a composting permit so that they can continue to do that? Why wouldn't the company pay that $20,000 so that they can do their business? I know you can't respond, but that's my confusion there. If somebody would like to get a hold of me and let me know. Also, I can't make heads or tails of this, but on August 5th, the IT department requested, it was the first reading to get disposal of the excess goods, the hard drives and things like that. And I believe Alderman Sanders asked, how do we do that? And I thought it was funny at the time because I'd never heard of it, but it was mentioned that it was all taken to the police department for shooting practice. And that was explained as the best way to get rid of these hard drives with the city's data on them. And it made sense, okay, just never heard of it. But tonight the same question was asked, and we're taking it to a company in Rockford that shreds the material. So I'm confused on which answer is correct, especially when we're disposing of the city's data. That's all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other public comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
We have a motion made by Alderman Sellers, seconded by Alderman Shadle. Madam Clerk, would you please take the roll?
Stacy? Aye. Shadle?
Aye.
Sanders?
Aye.
Sellers?
Aye.
Clem?
Aye.
Monroe?
Aye.
Simmons? And Parker?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned at 8:22.